The first time people saw the man behind the wheel of the Route 9 city bus, they assumed he was just another temp filling in for the regular driver, Mike, who was out on medical leave. But there was something about him that stood out. He was in his early 60s, wore a pressed white shirt with no stains, polished shoes, and spoke to each passenger as if he genuinely cared. "Good morning," he'd say with a slight British accent. "How's your mum? Did your daughter pass her exam?" People were surprised he remembered details. Most drivers didn't. Most didn't care. But this one did. His name tag read James. Just James. What no one on the bus knew was that James Hawthorne III had once been listed in Forbes. He had owned one of the largest logistics and freight companies in the Midwest. At his peak, he had 3 homes, a private jet, and the kind of wealth that insulated him from the world's noise. But something had changed 5 years prior, something that no newspaper ever covered and no corporate boardroom ever noticed. James had walked away from it all. It began when his wife of 35 years, Margaret, passed away unexpectedly from a stroke. One moment she was asking him to pass the salt at dinner. The next she was gone. The silence that followed was louder than any engine in his freight fleet. Their children were grown, scattered across continents, busy with lives he had paid for but never really entered. 4 months after the funeral, James wandered his estates like a ghost. He tried therapy. He tried travel. But nothing stuck. Until one afternoon, while stuck behind a broken-down city bus in downtown Chicago, he noticed something, the bus driver helping an elderly woman down the stairs, holding her bag with care. A small act, but one that struck him deeply. James remembered his father, who had once driven buses in Birmingham, England. His father had said once, "If you ever forget what people go through just to survive, you'll lose your soul, even if you keep your money." That night, James made a decision. He sold his company quietly, donated most of the money to charities that actually worked, ones Margaret had supported in life. Then he enrolled in commercial drivers training under a false name. Not to lie, just to start from zero. He moved into a modest flat, cut off all former business contacts, and applied for a job driving a city bus. His first day behind the wheel of the Route 9, he was nervous. But the rhythm of the job, the stops, the greetings, the subtle struggles of everyday people, began to fill something in him. Each passenger became a character in a living novel. There was Deshaun, a young man working 3 jobs to pay for nursing school. There was Mrs. Lindley, 82, who always wore a yellow hat and carried her late husband's war medals in her purse. There was Kara, a single mother whose 6-year-old son always saved James a lollipop. They didn't know who he was. They just knew he showed up every day on time, rain or shine, and made them feel seen. One day, a local newspaper columnist named Leo Banks rode the bus for a human interest piece. He noticed James's diction, his grace, and the leather-bound book he kept tucked under the seat, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Leo grew curious. After the ride, he asked for an interview. James politely declined. "I'm not the story," he said. "They are." But Leo couldn't let it go. He did some digging, and the article hit the front page 2 weeks later, from Fortune 500 to Fare Collector, The Secret Life of James Hawthorne III. The city buzzed. News vans appeared. Passengers were shocked. James didn't return to work for 3 days. When he did, he said nothing. Just showed up, opened the doors, and greeted everyone like always. It was Kara who finally asked, "Is it true?" He nodded slightly. "Does it change how I drove you last week?" She smiled. "Not at all. But now I feel guilty for not tipping." The passengers laughed. So did James. What followed was unexpected. Instead of quitting, James continued driving. The company offered him a management role. He declined. He told them, "You promoted me the day I got behind the wheel." James eventually started a weekend mentorship program for struggling youth, teaching them practical business skills from his decades of experience. He never boasted. Never wore a suit. Never brought up his past. People often asked him why he chose this life. He'd answer, "I used to build empires that moved freight. Now I move people. And I've never felt richer." Success isn't what you have, it's who you become when no one's watching. True wealth lies not in power or possessions, but in the difference you make in the lives you touch, one humble act at a time.